I think those simple facts of making everybody understand, like I come from a marine science background, and even I thought that we didn't have a problem with sewage, or I thought recycled water was going to be too hard, too expensive, too polluting versus what we're already doing. And then obviously through my journey, I realized we shouldn't be doing what we've been doing in the past few decades. So I think it's more getting that knowledge out there, because one, exactly, the real water cycle, what are we really doing? What are the real costs? So talking about the tragedy of the commons, most people don't realize what the true cost of what we're already doing is. And then linking it to everyday events. So, we've already talked about this one about the flood. For me, that was a really good learning curve of understanding that all because we've got this amount of water doesn't mean it's free and easy to use for us to drink. So recycled water is almost a no-brainer, whether we're looking at drought, costs, or flood. So I think it's just getting back down to the basics. People don't know most of this stuff. They've just got no.
Firstly, listening to talks like Sarah Jo's, that was fantastic, Sarah Jo. Has anyone here tried to get information out of the water industry? I used to work at Sydney Water for nearly 20 years. It took me 3 months to get data on how much sodium is in the water. I've got to say, West Australia, South Australia, you're much better. But it is like getting state secrets. Do you want to work out how much of our sewage is actually recycled? My God, that is almost impossible. So we need a much better narrative. We've actually got to share the problems, be honest about it, and also measure and share the successes, in my view.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks, Ian. Sorry, I can see you waving.
I think we need to get a much better understanding of how everything works. The community needs to understand that the oceans do need water. You can't just take it away. So if you're going to start taking water out of rivers like the Murray, you're going to muck it up. And equally, you can't have too much. So having a broader understanding, there needs to be an education process that teaches everybody not to make those sorts of mistakes where water is running out of the ocean. It's a waste, because it's not.
Talking about getting information from, for example, Sydney Water. They were trying to tell us that all these cotton buds were coming from stormwater, from people putting the buds into their bins. That was just one hurdle. Like they knew it was costing them money to clean out the buds. So I think it's the honesty and getting people to actually understand what's really happening.
So better information that's coming from a trusted source.
Yeah,
and that it's genuine and sharing. So I'd imagine it's Ian. I mean, you're the science communicator here as well, making sure that the information is available and in an accessible format for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually inspired by the point Simon made about reaching a target of 20% recycling. I think California is currently going for 80 because they are in absolute crisis. But why don't the Bureau of Meteorology, I love that website, why don't they have state-by-state comparisons, city-by-city comparisons? How are we going? And people want to share this. People want to share the sustainability journey that we're on. And the water industry needs to include things like that and celebrate the successes, but also talk about the problems.
Yeah, I was briefly just going to second Ian's point there about taking people on the sustainability journey, and I think that involves political leadership. I think that our political class have shied away from this issue and they haven't shown the kind of leadership that they can. Anastasia Palaszczuk should be standing up there drinking a glass of purified water to show that it's safe before, implementing maybe a short-term trial, a small-scale trial, like they did in Western Australia. Actually, they didn't ask people, they just went ahead and did it because such was the level of need. And people come to realise that the sky isn't going to fall in like in Singapore. It's going to be quite safe as long as we have the research to support it. And once, if you combine that with a public education campaign that shows that purified recycled water is very often cleaner than the water we get out of our dams and our groundwater, I think people will come along on the journey. But we need that political class to show the kind of leadership that's required. Thank you.
As well. Thank you. So John, over to you.
I think there's lots of things. Go to our policy document. That's got a number of recommendations and some really innovative stuff. And this is part of it. This is a pilot. We would like government to say, gee, they did a good job. We should be doing this, and they could do it properly because they've got more money. Now, and apart from that, as a plug, the other thing too is connecting the fact that the oceans and the rivers will thank us, and that's a social license.